The gate hadn't opened in years. Its iron hinges were seized with rust, and the paint that once shone a bright red had long ago turned to the color of dried blood. On its bars, dust clung thick as fur, and the old sign above it, Maconde Wildlife Estate, hung by one nail, creaking each time the wind came up from the plains. Beneath it, half in shadow, half in the long grass, lay the lion. He was not young. His mane had dulled from gold to a tired brown, his ribs faint beneath his hide, but the breadth of him still carried the quiet weight of kingship. The flies buzzed lazily around his muzzle, the scars there gray and smooth with age. His tail flicked once, slow and unbothered. He slept with his head resting against the base of the gatepost, the same post that had once marked the edge of his world. The sun hung weak and low. Clouds gathered on the horizon but brought no rain. The air smelled of dust, iron, and the memory of grass that used to be green. From the other side of the gate, a truck appeared, an old Land Rover, its paint the color of clay. Behind the wheel sat a woman in her 40s, hair tied back, face browned by sun and time. Her name was Nadia Mwangi, and she had returned after 20 years. She stopped the truck, engine coughing once before settling into silence. The road before her was broken, weeds growing through the cracks, tire marks from another life fading into nothing. She stepped out, her boots crunching on the dry earth. For a moment, she didn't see him. The lion blended with the land, his body a mirror of the dirt and sun. Then he stirred, a slow, deliberate movement, like the earth itself shifting. Her breath caught. "Good God," she whispered, "you're still here." The lion opened one eye. It was pale amber, unfocused, reflecting the sky. He didn't move again, only watched her from under the heavy weight of his mane. Nadia stepped closer, one hand resting lightly on the gate. The metal was hot under her palm. She remembered the day she had left. The government closing the park, the poachers coming after. Her father had stayed behind, and she hadn't seen him since. Now the gate was all that remained. She crouched, eyes level with the lion's. "You remember this place too, don't you?" she said softly. "It used to mean something." The lion's ear twitched at the sound of her voice. The flies lifted, settled again. The silence between them was thick, endless, and almost sacred. From far off came the faint hum of another engine, low, steady, approaching from the direction of the village. Nadia straightened, glancing over her shoulder. Dust rose in a long, pale ribbon across the plains. When she looked back, the lion had stood. His legs trembled slightly with the effort, but his head lifted high, mane rippling in the wind. He turned, gazing through the gate toward the open land beyond, the place that had once been his hunting ground. Nadia stepped back instinctively. She could feel the moment tightening around her, a fragile thread between past and present. Then, with a low, guttural sound, not quite a roar, not quite a sigh, the lion walked forward. His shoulder brushed the gate, leaving a streak of dust on the rusted metal. For a heartbeat, it seemed the world paused. No wind, no sun, no sound. The clouds swallowed the light. The air dimmed. Nadia stood there, hand pressed to her chest, watching him disappear into the tall grass beyond. The gate creaked once behind her, slow and tired. She whispered to the empty road, "It's like the sun forgot how to shine." And in that moment, as the dust swirled and the light drained from the sky, it truly seemed that it had. The night came without color. It arrived the way it always did on the plains, quietly, with no ceremony, as though the sun had simply grown tired and slipped away. The air was warm and restless. Crickets hummed in the grass. The smell of dust and dry leaves drifted across the ground like smoke. The lion moved through the darkness like a shadow that had remembered its shape. His mane caught what little light the stars offered, his paws silent on the cracked earth. He followed the faint scent of water, not because he was thirsty, but because the old riverbed had always been his road. Far behind him, the gate creaked again. Its hinges had begun to loosen in the night wind, making a sound that echoed across the empty land like a sigh. Nadia Mwangi sat by the hood of her truck, wrapped in a blanket, lantern at her side. The gate loomed behind her, half swallowed by shadow. She had meant to leave before dark, drive back to the small town where she was staying, but the truck refused to start. Now she sat alone, watching the land fade into the endless dark, listening to the insects and the wind. Somewhere out there, she knew, the lion was walking. She had seen enough of the wild to know when she was being watched. But this night felt different, quieter, heavier, as if even the air were holding its breath. She took a sip from her flask, the taste of warm metal and whiskey on her tongue, and spoke aloud to the darkness. "You must be older than my father now," she said. "Still here, still waiting for someone to remember." Her voice didn't carry far. The night swallowed it whole. A movement caught her eye, far out, near the silhouette of a broken windmill. A shape crossed the horizon, slow, deliberate, unmistakable. The lion. He walked like he had nowhere to go and every right to take his time. The moonlight painted his back silver. He stopped once, turned his head toward her, and for a heartbeat she thought their eyes met. Then he turned again and disappeared behind a rise in the land. The sight left her chest hollow. He was real. Not a memory, not a ghost of the park's past. A survivor. By morning, the truck started. The engine coughed awake as if nothing had been wrong. Nadia drove into town for supplies, water, petrol, film for her old camera. The shopkeeper, an older man with sharp eyes and a scar across his cheek, watched her load the truck. "You went out to the Makonde estate," he said flatly. She looked up. "You know it?" He nodded. "Everyone does. Place is cursed now. Drought took the grass. Poachers took what was left. Only bones out there." "Not just bones," she said. "There's still a lion." The man frowned, shaking his head. "Not possible. They all died years ago." "I saw him," Nadia said. "Alive." The shopkeeper studied her face for a moment. Then he sighed. "Then it's the last one." He said it not as wonder, but as sorrow. When she returned to the gate that afternoon, the sun was hard and white, flattening everything it touched. Heat shimmered above the road. The air tasted of iron. She parked the truck in the same place, camera slung over her shoulder. The gate still stood, same as before, rust catching the light like old blood. She took a photograph of it, then another of the road beyond, empty, but alive with mirage. She walked under the gate. The grass came up to her waist. Cicadas screamed from somewhere unseen. She stopped at a set of tracks pressed deep into the dirt, wide, round, edges still sharp. The lion had been there recently. She knelt, tracing one of the prints with her fingers. The ground was warm. "You're still walking the same paths," she whispered, "still guarding the same place." Behind her, the wind rose. It came hot and dry, carrying the faint scent of something burning. Wood, or maybe memory. She stood, turning toward the horizon. Dust swirled across the plain, bending the light into a strange, dim gold. For a moment, she thought she heard something. Not the cry of a bird, not the rustle of grass, but a low, distant sound like thunder. She lifted her camera, searching the horizon. The wind whispered through the tall grass and against the rusted metal of the gate, making a long, hollow moan that carried across the field. The lion was nowhere to be seen, but Nadia could feel him, out there, moving with the earth, as if he were part of it. She lowered the camera. The wind pressed her hair back, warm and endless, and she whispered, "You're not gone. The sun just forgot where to look." And somewhere, far beyond the reach of her sight, the lion paused in the heat haze and turned his head, as though he'd heard her. The wind carried the dust between them, like a bridge that neither would ever cross, but both would always feel. The rains never came that season. By late October, the grass was the color of ash, the air brittle with dust. The old estate lay wide open under the white sun, the fences sagging, the gates leaning, the ground split like cracked glass. Only the wind moved, slow and deliberate, carrying with it the scent of iron and memory. The lion had not been seen in 3 days. His prints still marked the dry earth near the riverbed, but the water there had turned to sand. The vultures circled higher now, farther east. Nadia Mwangi sat inside the rusted skeleton of the ranger's shed, notebook open on her lap. She had spent the morning driving the perimeter, mapping what was left of the reserve. Each entry she wrote felt like a confession. No movement near the acacia stand. Tracks faded by wind. Bones near the quarry road. Zebra, weeks old. When she put the pen down, her hand was trembling. It wasn't fear. It was something quieter. The feeling of watching something end slowly, beautifully, and not knowing how to stop it. Outside, the wind lifted, rattling the gate. Nadia turned toward the sound. Across the field, the horizon shimmered with heat, a thin mirage bending the world. Then she saw him, the lion. He was walking along the ridge, his body outlined against the sun. He moved slower now, heavier, but still proud, still steady. Each step seemed to weigh more than the last. He stopped near the gate, where the earth dipped into shadow, and stood there, not looking at her, but at the land beyond. Nadia stepped out into the heat. "You came back," she called softly. The wind took her voice, carrying it in pieces. The lion didn't move. His mane caught the light, red, gold, gray, the colors of things that last too long. She walked closer, one careful step at a time, the camera hanging from her neck. The click of her boots on dry soil echoed like raindrops in a hollow well. The lion's tail twitched once, slow and deliberate. When she stopped, they were 30 paces apart. The same distance as before, the same quiet between them. She lifted the camera, framed him beneath the gate, and pressed the shutter. The sound was small, fragile, final. The lion turned his head. Their eyes met. For a moment, the sun dimmed, not hidden by cloud, but dulled, as though it too had forgotten how to burn. The air went still. Even the insects stopped. Then he moved again, padding forward until his shadow crossed hers. He stopped by the post, the same one he had slept beneath when she first found him. He lowered his head, sniffed the ground, and lay down. Nadia crouched slowly. She could hear his breathing, rough, deep, full of sand. "You've been alone too long," she said softly. "So have I." He blinked, slow and heavy, eyes half closed. The wind shifted. Dust lifted from the ground and swirled around them both, turning the air into a gold fog. She could taste it on her tongue, the old dry taste of a world too tired to speak. When she finally looked up, the lion had settled fully into the grass, his body rising and falling in rhythm with the wind. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't asleep. Not yet. Just resting, waiting, the way the land waited for rain. Nadia sat beside him for a long time. The sun sank lower, and the light turned red, then bronze, then gone. She took one last photograph, not of him, but of the gate itself, the rust, the dust, the emptiness beneath it. When darkness came, the wind grew colder, whispering through the fields like a voice too old to remember words. Nadia stood, her knees stiff, and whispered back, "Tomorrow, then." She turned toward her truck, lantern swinging in her hand. Behind her, the lion lifted his head once more, watching her go. His breath stirred the dust at his paws, and for a heartbeat, the wind seemed to still, as if listening. Then, the air moved again, slow and endless, carrying the dust down the road, across the gate, and into the dark. The sun had forgotten to shine, but the world, stubborn as life, refused to stop breathing. The air that morning felt heavier than before, as if the sky had sunk lower in the night and was now pressing down on the earth. The horizon was pale, colorless, a stretch of white haze that swallowed the light and gave nothing back. The land was quiet, almost too quiet. Even the insects seemed to have lost their purpose. The lion had not moved far from the gate. He lay in the shadow of the leaning post, his mane dull with dust, his breath slow and uneven. Around him, the grass had thinned to bare dirt, a small circle of earth where nothing grew anymore. He opened his eyes only when the wind passed over him, stirring the rusted chains above his head. From beyond the road came the sound of the truck, Nadia's truck, coughing its way through the heat. The sound rolled across the plains like thunder, startling a pair of crows from the fence. She parked a little closer this time, the tires sinking slightly into the soft dust. When she stepped out, the wind caught her hair, and she had to raise a hand to shield her face. "You still here?" she called, half smiling. "I should have known." The lion lifted his head, blinked slowly, and lowered it again. She walked closer, the camera hanging forgotten around her neck. Her boots made soft prints beside the ones she had left yesterday. Each one was still there, unchanged. It was as if time had stopped at this gate, waiting for something neither of them understood. "I brought water," she said. She knelt, setting a metal bowl on the ground. The sound of it touching the earth was small but sharp in the silence. From a canteen, she poured what she could spare. The lion's eyes followed the movement. The water shimmered in the faint light, then stilled. "You don't belong here alone," she whispered, "but maybe neither do I." He didn't move toward the bowl, only watched it, the way a wild thing watches what it doesn't need but remembers. Nadia sat down beside the post, leaning her back against the gate. The rust left streaks on her shirt. She looked out at the horizon. "When I was a girl," she said quietly, "my father told me lions never die alone, that when their time comes the pride finds them. They sit near him, silent, until the end." The wind rose soft at first, then stronger, swirling dust around her boots. She glanced at the lion. His eyes were open now, clear and still. "You had a pride once," she said, "and I had a family. I guess the world takes what it wants, doesn't it?" She fell silent. The wind pressed against the grass, bending it flat. The air shimmered faintly, the light dull and strange, as if the sun were trying but failing to find its way through. Then faintly she heard it. Not the wind, not the groan of the gate, but a sound deep in the lion's chest. A low rumble, soft as thunder on the edge of hearing. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was a voice made of breath and memory. Nadia turned toward him, heart tightening. "You don't have to get up," she said. "You've already done enough just by surviving." The lion blinked once, slow, deliberate. Then he lifted his head, staring at the horizon where the light struggled to grow. His breath came shallow now, like the land itself breathing through him. The wind eased again. The dust settled. For a moment the world went still. Nadia reached out, her hand hovering just above his mane. The air between them was warm, full of the smell of earth and fur and metal. She didn't touch him. Some distances should never be crossed. But the nearness was enough. "I'll stay," she said quietly, "until the light comes back." But the sun didn't return that day. The clouds thickened instead, spreading across the sky like smoke. The world dimmed to a copper gray, and the shadows vanished altogether. By evening, the lion's breathing had slowed to nothing. His head rested against the base of the gate, the same place where he'd slept all those months. The wind came once more, brushing through his mane, then carried on across the plains. Nadia sat beside him as the dark came down, her hands still resting in the air between them. She stayed long after the last trace of warmth had left the ground. When she finally stood, the horizon was gone, swallowed by dusk. She looked once more at the lion, his body already part of the dust, part of the land, part of the silence. Then she whispered, "The sun will remember you." And as she turned toward her truck, the wind picked up again, carrying a slow golden haze through the open gate, the kind of light that doesn't shine but lingers, the kind that feels like memory, the kind that waits.